What's up everybody? I'm Mike and today I'm going to show you how I built this L-shaped desk completely out of plywood and laminate on Tall Guy DIY. I'm kicking this project off by ripping down one sheet of 3/4 inch radiated plywood. I cut 4 separate pieces that will be stacked to make the desk 1.5 inches thick. I made each cut to specific dimensions so that I could make a half lap joint at the elbow. I have a custom cut list for the whole project down below in the description. I glued the 2 separate sections together, being very generous with the amount of wood glue I was using. Then I took a bunch of squeeze clamps and clamped the 2 pieces together. Using 1.25 inch finish screws, I secured the 2 pieces further by drilling about 4 rows of 8 screws per row. I'm not worried about the screw holes as I'll be covering them up with a laminate top. I just repeated the steps for the second section. The half lap joint was surprisingly way easier than anticipated, and I was happy to see the edges fit together snug. I used wood glue, squeeze clamps, and more finish screws to secure the 2 sections together, giving the top the desired L shape. I did a quick sanding of the edges with 80 grit sandpaper on my orbital sander. Onto the laminate, I went with pure white from Home Depot. I bought an entire 4x8 sheet, and I had plenty for the whole desk. To cut out the desktop, I traced the actual top onto the back side of the laminate, then cut proud of that line with my circular saw. I wasn't too worried about any tear out here, as I made the cut giving myself about a 1/2 inch of extra material that I'll be making flush later. The circular saw cut laminate with no real tear out, which was awesome. To bond the laminate to the plywood, I used contact cement by DAP. I used a paintbrush to apply a thick coat of the cement to the underside of the laminate. Then I did the same to the desktop. Let the contact cement stand for about 15 minutes. Once it's tacky to the touch, you're good to go. I used some scrap 2x4s as spacer blocks so that I could line up the laminate on each corner and ensure a proper fitting. When bonding the 2 materials together, I used a tool called a J-roller. It's just a high concentrated rubber roller that helps push out any air and gives you a fresh, clean bond. The adhesion is immediate, so I took it slow, lining up the edges. Next, I used a flush trim bit on my palm router. This removed the excess laminate overhanging the edges of the desktop. I did one full pass on all the edges with 120 grit on my orbital sander. Alright, now let's be real. On a scale of 1 to Lysol, those edges are Clorox clean. To finish the exposed plywood edges, I use Simple Finish by Maker Brand. I really love the darkened, natural look it gives the plywood veneers. Alright, next up is the drawer cabinet. I knew I needed some sort of drawer storage for this desk, so I modeled my design after the Alex drawer unit from IKEA. It's a modern, minimal look and requires no drawer pull hardware, which is definitely a huge plus. I ripped down a sheet of 3/4 inch radiated plywood for the frame of the cabinet. Building the cabinet frame, I picked up these Rockler corner clamps to help keep those corners tight. They work well, Tall Guy approved. Using butt joints, I glued the ends and then secured them to the vertical pieces with finish screws. I repeated this method for each of the 4 connections. I only had 2 corner clamps, so I mounted my framing square in the upper corner using a squeeze clamp to ensure that that 90-degree angle remained true. The two vertical pieces of the frame were purposely cut short so that I could take a 1/4-inch piece of plywood and seal it to the back, enclosing the frame. I glued the two ends and then used painter's tape to clamp the back piece to the frame. When it comes to the drawers, I'm still working to find the easiest way to assemble all the pieces. So if anyone has a foolproof DIY method, let me know down in the comments. I just went ahead and used the Rockler corner clamps and assembled each drawer corner by corner. Butt joints, glue, and finish head screws is all it took to assemble these bad boys. Installing drawer slides is a bit of a daunting task, but Rockler sells this universal drawer slide jig that makes the install easy for even the most novice DIYers. Yep, that's me. The jig holds the slide level at the desired height, eliminating the need for any clamps or needless frustration. Thanks, Rockler. Now it's as easy as sliding the drawers onto the slides and we have ourselves a cabinet. The drawer fronts are simply rectangles that I cut an inverted trapezoidal shape pull-out with my jigsaw. I adhered laminate to each drawer face using that DAP contact cement, then took my palm router with a flush trim bit and cleaned up the edges. Attaching the drawer faces to the drawers themselves became a manageable task when I picked up this hot glue method. All you have to do is apply a generous amount of hot glue to the drawer, line up the drawer face at the right height, and screw on from the inside. Of course, these drawer faces weren't finished without that fresh coat of Simple Finish. If you want to get some for yourself so your drawers are looking like this, check out Maker Brand Co. I'll leave a link to their website down in the description. I made this desk for my Boston apartment bedroom, specifically to fit in this corner. My design was limited by the space available, but that's the beauty of building it yourself. Completely custom, completely your own. On one end of the L is the drawer cabinet, in the elbow, a single leg support. And on the opposite end, I picked up this bell-shaped flat bar table leg in white from DIYhairpinlegs.com. Standing at 28 inches tall, this leg really rings the whole desk together. I'll leave a link to this down in the description. Once assembled, it's all about the computer setup and unnecessary amount of LEDs. I'll be making another video soon where I go over my whole setup from monitor wall mount to proper cable management. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future Tall Guy content. Overall, I was pumped at the end result of this desk. It's just what I needed for my at-home workspace gaming corner. It's where productivity meets endless hours of Fortnite and Warzone in a perfect union. This is also my submission for the Rockler Desk Challenge, hosted by the guys of the Modern Maker podcast. Check them out if you haven't already, link below. That's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to follow me over on Instagram. I'm at tallguy.diy. That's where I post the most on all my ongoing projects. If you liked following along with this build today, make sure to leave a like below. If you want to check out more content, you can click right here in this next video. Until next time, I'm Mike on Tall Guy DIY.